We're really pleased to have you today. I know you're super busy, and Katie Antypas is a senior advisor for cyber infrastructure at NSF. And let's see, today she'll be talking to us about transforming science and engineering research through an integrated cyber infrastructure ecosystem, an update from the Office of Advanced Cyber Infrastructure. And we are very pleased to have you today to talk about these topics that are so important to the major mid-scale facilities, both for leveraging the cyber infrastructure, NSF cyber infrastructure for the data lifecycle, but also for the data that scientists then can use for their science. So welcome, Katie. Hopefully you can share your slides if you have any, or
Yeah, no, this is great. Thanks so much for having me. I think I didn't realize this was a virtual meeting, and so actually, I'm thrilled that it's in this case virtual. So
I'm
sometimes
sorry.
it's very hard to talk to an in-person group when you are virtual. So this is good. I will try to keep my remarks on the shorter side, so there's some opportunity for Q&A, and then I think we've had some really interesting opportunities that we've been able to release, in particular, our integrated data systems and services um, solicitation that is proposals have come in. They're under review now, but I think this is very well kind of aligned with much of the work that CI Compass has been doing over the years. So let me start with a few slides. And let me figure out where I am. Just a second. So I know this group knows, I think this group knows NSF and OAC fairly well, but I still will give you a bit of an overview of what our office does and also some changes in our organization structure and where things are changing, but also where our mission and our goals really remain consistent and where we're moving forward here. So, when you look back, OAC was really created and formed to transform science and engineering research through an integrated cyber infrastructure ecosystem. And although OAC has changed names many times, has moved places in the organization, this mission has remained very strong. And at this point today in OAC, we support the infrastructure needs of over 25,000 researchers. And there's some key major categories where we make investments. Sometimes the most visible, sometimes what people recognize us for is our investments in the largest scale infrastructure, and that's in our supercomputing systems, also some networking infrastructure awards that we make, but we make investments in a number of other areas as well. Workforce development, community building is a key aspect of what we do as an office. We also make investments in partnership with other directorates in software and data frameworks and gateways. And then finally, and I think what will be really relevant to this group today is that we're often behind the scenes at many of the major facilities, making the networking run, making sure that the data is transferred to where it needs to be, making sure it's usable and accessible. And so I think in some ways OAC is kind of the secret sauce behind the some of the major facilities. And just a couple of examples of this. Um, Recently in the last year, Vera Rubin came to First Light, and OAC's investments were very much a part of this. And one of them was through a longtime partnership and set of awards through Amlight. And this really enabled the high-speed transfer of data from the telescopes in South America to the data processing facilities. In this case, it's SLAC on the West Coast in Menlo Park. And while the role here wasn't to lay the fiber, it was really to make sure that there was a super highway, that there was that the data could move very efficiently and effectively through all these different networking endpoints, and to make sure we were able to look at the performance and assess any bottlenecks, smooth those bottlenecks. And that is obviously really critical in order to enable that telescope to respond in real time um, to objects that are found in the sky. Also behind this Vera Rubin telescope were other OAC investments in training the workforce. So our cyber training program made an investment a couple years back to really train graduate students in the science that Vera Rubin would be exploring and investigating. And then also our trusted CI collaboration, where we invest um, also works very closely with the astronomy community to make sure that those facilities and telescopes are securely managed. So that's an example of the investments that we make behind some of the large scale infrastructure. But we also start sometimes with much smaller investments. This was a case for open on demand. It started really as about a 500K investment over a decade ago and has grown to be used really worldwide, deployed at over 2,000 sites across 100 different countries. And this has been typically through our CSSI, our software and data program. So kind of a different range of types of investments that we make. I'll leave this as a reference to you. It's a breakdown of our funding and how we've spent our FY25 money. But I'm going to move forward and talk a little bit about our new organization. So OAC, we remain part of the SISE, the Computer and Information Sciences and Engineering Directorate. There's been some reorganization here, and this is partly, I'll get into a little bit of the nuts and bolts, but this is partly to make sure that federal staff are reporting to federal staff and IPAs are reporting to the IPA line. We continue to have IPA rotators that will continue to rotate in to NSF and work very closely with the federal staff. Um, so some changes is that Amy Walton, who has been the deputy office director for OAC, she has, I think you could say, gotten a promotion. She's a deputy directorate head in size, and I will be working under, Ellen Zagora as senior advisor for cyber infrastructure. Ed Walker, who I think many of you know, he will be the Fed head, the Fed lead of OAC. And so I'll be working really closely with both Amy and Ed. The federal staff will report into Ed Walker, and I will supervise the IPA staff. A couple of other internal news that I thought would be worth sharing here is that you may know NSF headquarters are moving. So we're moving into a nearby Alexandria building. It is walkable from um, our older building. It's in the same complex as the Patent and Trademark Office. That building's not yet ready for us. So currently NSF staff are teleworking until that building is ready. We have bets on when that will be, but we don't quite know yet. Um, so you can see these are our program officers that we have in OAC right now. It is a very lean group. We also have operation staff that are absolutely critically important to what we do. The only reason I have not shown them on this slide is that they're transitioning January 15th, which is a couple of days. So in the future, I will make sure I have them on there, but that is still in flux. And then, as you also know, NSF has been in the process of simplifying solicitations, consolidating solicitations. And so we expect going forward, there will be um, fewer solicitations covering broader areas and broader programs. So that's just something to keep in mind. But I would say what I want to share with with you all today is that despite, a number of changes that happen when administrations change, our commitment to the community is really strong. And our program officers are incredibly dedicated and hardworking to make sure that proposals are expertly reviewed. We're running panels. We have a ton of panels starting next week. And so, our core business is the same. Our merit review process, while it's had some updates that I think give NSF some flexibilities that we that will need going forward, remains strong and the same, looking at the criteria, the intellectual merit and broader impacts. And in terms of OAC priorities, again, our work is very well aligned with the current administration. And so our themes and our investment areas kind of are in these core areas, which really haven't changed. And we focus on making investments and integrating the ecosystem. Our awards are really not distinct, separate awards that are not connected. They're often cooperative agreements and they're connected to a broader ecosystem. We're making key investments in building the workforce and community partnerships, and then advancing really core innovative architectures. And so I thought I would show you just 3 examples from the past year where we've made investments in this area. Of course, we make hundreds of investments every year, so I'm just calling out a couple of them here. But the first key investment that we made was I wanted to highlight here was in CloudBank 2.0. And so CloudBank, as of, I believe, about a month ago, is now available through Access and Nair. And we see this as an opportunity to give researchers access to a greater variety of resources that they may use for their research. So through Access and through Nair, you can gain access to large-scale supercomputing. You can gain access to high throughput computing. You can gain access now to cloud computing resources as well, all through kind of the same front door. Another set of investments we've made has been through the Nair pilot expansion effort. And this is a set of awards really looking to bring new communities into the I would say the computational science, data science community. This first award I highlight, Sustainable Research Pathways, is one from being led by Marianne Lung, and she is really matching first-generation college students with researchers who have Nair awards for different summer internships. And then there's a couple other awards here, one out of CMU and the Bridges 2 team that is again collaborating with teams at West Virginia State, George Mason University, other universities to really train communities on how to use these resources. And then finally, another award to UC San Diego, which is to bring the National Research Platform to more EPSCoR state universities. Okay, and then thinking also forward about really novel and new types of cyber infrastructure. We made an award last spring for the SAGE Grand Testbed, and this is an award that will deploy cyber infrastructure, really edge computing in different environments. And some of these nodes will go into urban areas, others will go into more rural areas too. And a key is really to be able to, again, bring different communities to cyber infrastructure and to integrate the cyber infrastructure with our broader community. So these are just some awards we'll be tracking in the next year. I did want to say a little bit more, since this is the CI Compass meeting, about some updates for leadership class computing facility. So this facility is moving forward. The contract was signed in this last year, It's a distributed facility for advanced computing and data science. And so the awardee is at UT Austin. And then there will be a large or a system and storage facility there. And then there are distributed sites across the country as well. Um, right now, the what is happening is that the data center co-location partnership is really just nearing completion, and the awardee is taking delivery of the Horizon supercomputer, I think, as we speak. Um, and so there's been a lot of progress in the last 6 months to prepare this site for that main deployment of the LCCF Horizon supercomputer. This is a system that will provide a really significant increase in capabilities for the research community. It's 10x improvement if you think about core simulation capabilities. It's over 100x of improvement in AI capabilities over the current capability. And then there's some other novel capabilities here. Um, the primary system will be batch-based, which is how these systems have historically run, but there is a second partition that will support interactive use and persistent services. There is also uh, a large archival system, nearly an exabyte of archival storage, and then almost 400 petabytes of flash disk. And so what I think as the CI Compass community, I'd really like you to think about is how LCCF changes how you interact with different facilities that you're partnering with. Because we certainly see that LCCF is really a facility for other NSF facilities. And you can see there's partnerships with a whole number of different major facility, mid-scale facilities that NSF has funded. And I think it's just absolutely critical. NSF is investing in scientific facilities that are producing data. They need simulation capabilities, and they need to have confidence that NSF is making an investment in a computing and data infrastructure that they can count on for the longer term. And this is that investment. This is at least a 10-year investment with the opportunity to be kind of recapitalized. And so again, I think will be really important for us as a community to think about how we can use LCCF as an anchor. It is a major investment. It's equivalent to the investment of multiple years of OAC's kind of funding that we typically make in any given year. Okay, so I think I'm nearly out of time here, so I want to just jump. I will give you one quick thing on the NAIR, which is that we are thrilled to be at the NAIR nearly 2-year anniversary, and we are at the point where we're supporting over 600 projects, more than 6,000 students and researchers in every single state, DC and Puerto Rico. We're looking to really accelerate NAIR as we move into this next year. We have many of you seen there is a solicitation out for the operating center. That due date is February 4th. So that operating center will be really critical in terms of how we scale and move forward with the NAIR. And then I think maybe you've been aware too of our integrated data systems and services solicitation. That deadline has passed, but I know we're expecting some really exciting awards to come out of that program as well. And then finally, in terms of upcoming deadlines, Programmable Cloud Labs has passed. Cyber training deadline is in a couple days. So if you're working on that, make sure that is in. And our cybersecurity innovation for cyber infrastructure, or CC, that deadline is coming up January 26th. So with that, Eva, maybe I will stop there, and maybe I have time for couple questions.
Yes, so thank you so much, Kate. We have time for questions. If you want to ask a question, please raise your hand and turn on your camera, or put the question into the Zoom chat. One thing I want to say, Katie, I really appreciate your talk, and thank you for the overview of the restructuring. It's been kind of opaque to us, so it's great to know how things are. And LCCF, I think, is such a great investment, especially the storage from the point of view of major facilities. But Chi Cheng has her hand up, so please go ahead.
Yeah, so regarding the cloud bank and resources, my question is, are these just for like short-term projects that utilizes the cloud resources, or can they also be used for like long-term hosting services?
Yeah, thank you. So, they can be used for longer term services. The Cloud Bank team will work with you to see what resource is really the best match. And if they think, this is better supported somewhere else, they'll pass you off. But in fact, I think, I don't know exactly what kind of service you're thinking of, but we've seen that sometimes if you have a very lightweight service, it can make a lot of sense to host that in the cloud and then keep the large scale computing kind of doing some of the number crunching. There are costs to analyze and balance here, and that's part of the effort is really to understand the mix and where different parts of the workload are best suited. But yeah, I would definitely reach out to the Access and Cloud Bank teams if you have a use case, and they can tell you more. But it's absolutely not intended for just kind of a short running job.
Okay, thank you so much.
And also, when you ask questions, it would be great to let us know where you're from. So
Oh, yes. I'm from Yukon Health, and I managed the NSF sponsored NAM project, which is a mid-scale RI2 project. We just recently finished the 4-year project.
Okay, great.
Thank you so much. I have a question. I have other questions for Katie. So I'll take the opportunity to ask one more question, Katie. So I'm curious. The DOE has launched the Genesis mission, which is looking at AI models and infrastructures. Is NSF? What is NSF thinking on this collaboration or other aspects?
Yeah, no, thank you for that. We're actually working with DOE right now to make sure we understand kind of where we can collaborate and align NSF AI initiatives that include NAIR, but also go beyond NAIR and the new Genesis mission. I think one thing I'll note is I think Genesis is really from what I've heard and heard from directly from DOE is organized really around grand challenge problems. So some number of grand challenge problems. And NSF and the NAIR will continue to support really, I would say, bottoms up investigator driven inquiries. So that's sort of one, I think, key difference where both are really necessary, I think, for the US ecosystem. Some areas where we may be collaborating is around workforce development. I think it's obviously critical. The folks that end up at national labs, they come through our universities, they get trained. So I see that as kind of an obvious place. I think the AI institutes where NSF has made key investments in the past and continues to make investments may also be really useful to informing some of those grand challenge problems. So yeah, thank you. That's a good question, and it's definitely something we're tracking within NSF.
Thank you, Katie. David, you have one last question before we move over to the panel. David, go ahead.
Thanks, I'll make it quick. So does NSF, for its own facilities in its portfolio, envision launching a kind of analogous Genesis mission initiative?
You know, I haven't heard that. NSF does have some investments that we make across directorates in terms of, like, I would say the AI institutes are major center scale investments. So I think NSF will do things right in the NSF way, but we are continuing to make, you know, new investments in AI. You know, I think NSF often invests in that curiosity-driven research, sometimes at a really early stage. And so we want to really be complementary to kind of the initiatives in DOE.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Katie, for your presentation.